Welcome back, Reefers. Merry Christmas. So you're looking at a tape and cardboard template of the Fluval M90 Reef. It's something to do here. You set this up and it allows you to work with your rocks, make sure everything fits right. You have enough clearance between the glass walls and the rock structure for your scrapers, your brushes, your magnetic cleaners. It also gives me a good chance to look at how the rock touches the bottom of the tank. Personally, I like to have multiple points and the rock to appear elevated, hovering just above the sand. That way all my little shrimp and goby pears and sand sifting starfish and all the critters like that have a good place to hide and refuge in. So with that, we're going to do LifeRock with this tank. So when you're using this dry rock, you have plenty of time to work. You don't have to rush anything. Set up your rocks, you can glue them into place, and then you can gently place them into the tank and really get a look at your results. So with that, let's talk about this LifeRock. All right, guys, so we're gonna take a look at this LifeRock. LifeRock's made by Caribsea and comes in I think 4 different styles. You have flat shelf rock, you have shapes, you have branches, and then you have like a base rock shape. I think it's pretty realistic. It looks real good underneath the fish light, the aquarium lights. This here piece is probably like a shapes, and I would call that a cove perhaps. So see the color on it. It actually looks like it has like detritus on it also. It's pinks, purples, and it's pretty porous as well. So let's pull out a few more pieces here and we'll talk about them. I wanted to order this online, but then I started thinking if I can find a local fish store, I can pick and choose exactly what I wanted to use rather than being forced into a certain style and a certain weight of rock. So I ended up paying a little bit more than I would on BRS or Reef Supplier, but I think it was better to be able to know exactly what I was taking home rather than being stuck with what they shipped to me. So some places will sell this stuff for like $8 a pound. There's no way I'd pay that. So I'll pay 50 cents to $1 more than online, but I'm not going to pay a super premium like I've seen in locations around where I live. So here you're looking at probably a base shape right there, base rock shape, a shape called a cove. Maybe they call that a cove, I don't know. And then here comes one here. This is like an arch. So I bought about 3 arches. I bought a cave hole, one with a hole in it. I bought 1 piece of flat base rock, and I didn't buy any branching. Branching, I kind of don't. I'm not into branching because I just can't seem to get the aquascapes right when I use that stuff. I don't know what to do with it. I just don't have a visual for that. So here's another one of these archways. And when it's all said and done, there's so many places you can bury some epoxy and glue down your frags. I don't think that'll be an issue with any of this rock. There's so many little nooks and crannies and ditches and holes in them that you could infinite amount of areas you can glue frags to. Here's a piece of the shelf rock. The flat you could put like that, or you could probably put it flat on the bottom if you want to build up your structure on top of a piece of base rock. I don't do that. I'd rather have my rock elevated. So I'm going to get to putting together some aquascapes here and see what I can come up with. All right, so here's one little design I came up with. It's okay. It's not as open as I would like. I do have some nice areas underneath the rock where it looks like the rock is hovering above the sand. I like the way that looks, like kind of like an overhang. But then I had the 2 arches, and they're kind of square in the center of the whole tank. So basically, it kind of looks like McDonald's or something, and it's just a little symmetrical. But all in all, this is real quick. This is just stacking a few rocks, and boom, you have some ideas right away. In the dead center there's a little cave entranceway that's pretty cool. And then that cove rock is on the lower right, which I think is going to be the foundation of every layout that I do. It's kind of a big rock, and I'm trying to get my structure to go really high on one side and then slope downwards to the left side of the tank. So high on the right, downward, and then I'm trying to get basically some depth to, as well as leaving room around the tank for at least a magnetic cleaner, if not my whole entire hand. So we'll look at another one here I did. This one here is more open, but again, I've got McDonald's going on, and there's a couple other pieces of rock I threw in there that I had, smaller pieces that I had bought, and this one here, I'm trying to get more places to put coral. So I'm messing around still, and I think I have an idea where I'm going to go with this. So I'm going to get back to it and hopefully figure out exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, before we get to the big reveal, I want to talk about these 4 different ways I used different materials to glue the rock together. The first one here I used in a situation where I had my whole structure together. I was really pleased with the position of it, and it was kind of important that all the little shells I had made out of the shelf rock, I had busted up the shelf rock and glued them on different points of the structure, and it looked very seamless. And I wanted all those shelves to be perfectly level. And the only way it could be achieved was getting my whole structure perfectly balanced on the bottom donut-shaped cave rock that I had down there that wasn't glued. And I had a real hard time getting it readjusted after I had moved it for something. So once I finally got it back into position that I wanted to, I basically went up in hard to reach areas and put this around all the contact points of those 2 rocks and let it cure overnight, and then voila, I was able to take the entire structure out without messing up the perfect position that I had it in. So this is a good thing to use in tight, hard to reach areas when you really want to get something, structure of a rock together, and you just can't reach in there with the following epoxies that I'm going to show you. This next one, this here Pro Paste, is an adhesive I use in rod building. I'm into custom rod building, fishing rods, or fishing rods, and this one here is a 2-part hardener resin, yellow and clear. It dries really quick. It's a paste, so it's nice and firm. You can put it on the end of a stick and just work it into the rock, and it dries real quick and real strong. I was concerned that it might be poisonous to the fish, but after it cured, it didn't have any scent. It doesn't have any scent to it. It doesn't have any taste. And I threw a chunk of it into my little 20-gallon long, and it's been in there for a couple days, and I don't skim, and the water's clear, and the fish are fine. The soft coral is fine, so I don't think there's any problem with this. You could probably, I'll leave the link in the description of the video. That way, if you guys want to get some nice paste epoxy resin to use that works quick and it's reasonably priced, this might be a good way to go. I did test it out, and the rocks held remarkably well. This here coral gum I also used. This is kind of expensive, but it's very clean and mixes real well, and it's soft and it's great to work with. I don't think I would pay the premium to use this unless I'm working with an Aquascape that's already in the tank and is wet. Because it doesn't get slimy, it doesn't break down and become like a film in your water. I've used this when it's wet and it works great. So the trick with these 2-part gums, whether it's this one or the next one, the Aquastik, you have to use quite a bit, and you got to wrap it around the points of rock. It's got to grab and basically grab hold of the rock. It's not necessarily an adhesive. You think you're going to just stick 2 rocks together with this? It's not going to work. You have to shape and mold this around the rock in order for it to work. The next one here is the Aquastik. This is a lot cheaper than the other one, but I wouldn't recommend it with a wet Scape working in the water. It gets messy, slimy, it starts getting all over the place, and it makes a mess. But if you're working on a dry Scape, it works just as good as the coral gum by Tunze or Tunze, whatever it's called. So basically, dry scaping, I would use this. Wet scaping, I would pay the extra money and use the Tunze. So basically, now we're going to show you the big reveal, and we'll go through what I finally came up with. Okay, so here we are looking at the Scape. Those white areas that you see that are kind of brighter, those are flat areas of the shelf rock that I had bought. Basically, I busted it up with a hammer, flipped them upside down, and chiseled them out and kind of fit them into the rock virtually seamless. You can't really tell. They really came out really well. I think I should try to get some better lighting, but I just can't figure out how to get it right. I got the whole rock scape elevated off the glass nicely. Uh, that end piece arch you see right there, that is a separate piece, and the part glued to it, it's just one separate piece. The rest of the structure is all glued together. The donut-shaped piece is right in the middle, underneath the regular shaped piece. And to the right of that, you have one of the other arches. And then there's that cove piece on the lower right, which I said I was going to use as a foundation. And connecting that lower right piece with the center piece is upside down shelf rock, mold and epoxied in like another bridge. I went a little bit higher than I expected I would go, but it's okay. I'm fine with it. Like, it all looks great. My son couldn't even figure out where the beginning and the end of each rock was. So he's got an eye. He's really a detail-oriented kid. So if he can't tell where the rocks begin and end, I think it's pretty good to say that it looks pretty tight. It has a sense of depth. When you look at it from the front, you don't realize how narrow it is. It looks like it comes out at you, but in reality, I have a lot of room behind it, so I can actually slide it back possibly another half an inch or so and make more room in the foreground. The final piece on the end, I could also move that quite a bit back and give myself a little area of sand, a little bigger area of sand to work with, because it's not attached. I can just make an angle, have it kind of wrap around. It's got a lot of overhanging areas above the sand, and I plan on only using about a half an inch of sand, maybe 3/4 of an inch. We're going to use Caribsea sand, and it'll be probably not the lightest stuff. I don't want stuff blowing everywhere, but enough that it's fine enough for sand sifters to enjoy and work through. Alright guys, I appreciate you watching the video, and I hope you have a Happy New Year. Hopefully the next video you'll see will be getting some water in this tank. I appreciate it. God bless.